Hey, welcome back. Today, we're going to jump right into the crypto market outlook for 2026. We're going to look at the key assets and the big stories, the narratives that everyone is watching, from the absolute giants of the market all the way to the super speculative stuff. All right, let's get into it.
So, this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Which coins have the potential to really move in 2026? The analysis we're digging into today tries to answer exactly that by looking at what analysts are saying and where the community buzz is. So let's break down how they see the whole landscape shaping up.
Here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll set the scene with the big picture drivers for 2026. Then, we'll take a little journey along the risk spectrum, starting with the bedrock of the market, then moving to some challengers with really specific uses, and finally, we'll look at the high-risk, high-reward plays. Let's go!
Okay, before we dive into any specific coins, we've got to understand the major forces at play. You can think of these as the huge currents that are moving the entire crypto ocean this year.
The analysis really points to three big ones. First up, institutional influence. We're talking big money from ETFs and hedge funds finally flowing in. Second, regulation. Any news on that front, good or bad, can send massive ripples through the market. And third, tech and adoption. This is stuff like the rise of AI in crypto, scaling solutions that make things faster, and projects that have actual, real-world utility. These themes are basically deciding where the money is going.
All right, let's start our journey with the heavyweights of the industry. These are the two assets that truly anchor the entire market. Look, they might not be the crazy 100x gambles anymore, but believe me, their performance sets the tone for absolutely everything else. And of course, we have to start with Bitcoin. It is still the ultimate benchmark. Whether Bitcoin is going up, down, or just sideways, the entire crypto world is holding its breath and reacting to its every move.
So why does Bitcoin still matter so much? Well, first, it's got the most money in it, which makes it the most stable, relatively speaking. The new ETFs have basically opened the floodgates for institutional cash. And that whole digital gold story with its fixed supply, that remains incredibly powerful. So the key takeaway here is that Bitcoin's health pretty much dictates the market's overall mood.
All right, our second pillar is Ethereum. If Bitcoin is digital gold, then you can think of Ethereum as the foundational layer for a new decentralized internet. It's the platform where thousands of other apps are being built.
See, Ethereum's story is all about one thing: usage. It is the undisputed king of DeFi and NFTs. And as these scaling solutions make it cheaper and faster to use, more and more people can jump in. Plus, big institutions are getting really interested in the yield you can earn from staking ETH. So a bet on Ethereum is really a bet on the long-term growth of the entire crypto app ecosystem.
Okay, now we're moving a little further out on that risk spectrum we talked about. This section is all about established projects that are trying to solve very specific problems or even compete directly with the giants by offering something unique.
And first up in this category is Solana. It kind of burst onto the scene with a super clear sales pitch: be faster and cheaper than everybody else. And because of that, it's become a huge competitor to Ethereum for both developers and users. So what's the big deal? Well, its main draw is that transactions are ridiculously fast and cost next to nothing. And that speed and low cost has attracted a really vibrant ecosystem of apps. The thinking is, if it keeps improving its tech and pulling in more developers, it's got some serious potential.
Next up, we have XRP, which is a really interesting case because its story for 2026 has a ton to do with what's happening in the courtroom and with financial regulators, not just its technology.
So, according to the analysis, the key driver here is getting more regulatory clarity. Any positive legal news could be the key that unlocks the door for more institutional money. You combine that with its long-standing focus on cross-border payments and the buzz around potential ETFs, and you've got a pretty clear story for potential growth.
All right, let's talk about Polygon. Now, it's not trying to be an Ethereum killer. You should think of it more like an Ethereum helper. It's what's called a Layer 2, which is basically a solution that helps Ethereum handle way more transactions way more efficiently.
So, the bottom line with Polygon is that as Ethereum grows, the need for scaling solutions like it just explodes. Its value is directly tied to being this essential piece of infrastructure. With new tech upgrades and more payment integrations, it's really positioning itself as a fundamental building block for Ethereum's future. Now here's a coin with a massive, and I mean massive, strategic advantage: Toncoin. Its entire story revolves around distribution and its direct pipeline to a huge, existing user base. And really, one word here says it all: Telegram. By being deeply integrated with that messaging app, Toncoin has potential access to hundreds of millions of users right out of the gate.
I mean, that is a colossal head start for adoption. Analysts think that as more apps build on its chain, the transaction volume could drive demand way up.
Okay, big shift here. We're now officially entering the most speculative part of the market, and I want to be crystal clear. The analysis frames these as extremely high-risk assets. The potential to lose your money here is just as high, if not higher, than the potential for big gains.
And that brings us to this key concept, asymmetric growth. This is what some traders are hunting for. It's the idea of putting in a small amount of money you are totally okay with losing completely, by the way, for the tiny chance of a massive, outsized return. It's really the core idea behind speculating on these early-stage projects.
This gives us a quick look at the kinds of projects in this category. You've got a couple of AI-focused coins, which are super high risk because they're either in pre-sale or just brand new. Then there's something like Caspa, which has a cool tech story, but really unproven long-term adoption. And, of course, meme coins, which are driven purely by viral hype and community, making them unbelievably risky.
And this quote from the source says it all, and it's a huge warning. The incredible speed that meme coins can shoot up is matched only by the speed at which they can crash back down to earth. It is the very definition of a high-stakes gamble. So let's just zoom back out for a moment. Because no matter what asset we're talking about, the source is clear that these risks are universal across all of crypto. Prices are incredibly volatile, regulations can change overnight, projects can just fail or turn out to be scams, and coins can get kicked off exchanges. This is just a reminder to always be cautious. So, we'll end on this final thought. We've seen all the different narratives, right? The stability of Bitcoin, the utility of Ethereum, the speed of Solana, the massive user base of Toncoin, and the pure hype of AI and meme coins. The big question for 2026 and beyond is which of these stories is going to capture the market's imagination and its capital the most? That's something to think about. Thanks so much for tuning in.